3 to 4 years.
Mm. So, what, if you recall, when did you start doing drugs? Like whether it be weed or whatever.
I was young. I probably started when I was like 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Damn, 9.
yeah, I grew up around that kind of lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and I have back problems. So, my parent, not my mom, would be like, hey, go to the hospital and say you fell down a flight of stairs and, you can get this medicine and we'll make money off of it.
Oh.
And then would be like, here, you can have some. And New Year's drinking, my dad smoked pot. So that was always a big thing in my household. And so I started really young, unfortunately.
Yeah, 9 years old. That's wild.
Yeah.
So, what pain pills were you prescribed, and how much, if you recall, what did your mom sell them for?
Well, it would have been my dad. My mom did not support any of that stuff.
Okay.
Thank God. Like she's a good mom, but it would be hydros. A few times, like I got oxycodone, and my dad would be like, "Oh, we hit the big bucks," and but I don't recall too much more because my dad always had people in and out of the house.
Right.
At his mom's house, not my mom's house, but his mom's house.
So your parents weren't together?
No.
Okay.
Okay. No, they split up when I was young, also because of that reason.
Okay.
He was in and out of my life kind of person.
Gotcha.
So yeah, he would take it, and random people, men, women, it didn't matter, teenagers even, would come in. They would go downstairs, do whatever they did, and then leave. Or I would get stuck babysitting them.
At 9 years old? Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously 9, you probably like smoked and drank. When did you actually start hardcore drugs?
I would say I was 20. Oh Lord, I have to remember. 2018. It would have been 2018. At that point in my life, I had, divorced. I was going through a divorce, got with my high school sweetheart, and unbeknownst to me, he was living that kind of lifestyle and lying to me about it. When I finally did find out about it, I kind of got peer pressured into it. Like, hey, if you want to hang out with these people, you got to know what their mind is like.
Right.
And, it's like, I don't really want to do that. Like, I know what that does. I know what it is. I know what that does. And I don't really want to do that.
Right.
And so they just kept on and kept on. Like, hey, if we're going to be together, like, this is how it's going to be. And me being young, dumb, and naive, I said, okay. And it started with a little bit, and a little bit turned into every other weekend. After I lost my job, I had a really good job. I was a phlebotomist at a doctor's office. So after I lost my job, it became every weekend, and then every weekend wasn't enough. So then it became every day. And then, once, twice, 3 times a day wasn't enough. So it became, grams and ounces and everything else very quickly. It escalated quick.
Yeah. Wow. So you went from drinking, smoking. What hardcore drug did you start out on, if you remember?
Meth.
Oh shit! So you just went straight to it.
Yeah.
Huh? From I guess, what was the drug of your choice at the time?
At that time, I predominantly used meth, and of course, my friends. I have friends from all kinds of backgrounds, and I have friends that like, oh, try ecstasy. So I would try ecstasy. Oh, hey, try, you know, heroin.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried heroin. Oh, here's some liquid morphine. I tried liquid morphine. So not very proud moments of my life because I remember at one point it was just whatever was being fed to me.
Right.
Like I didn't care. I had many friends that would be like, oh, don't do this because it's got bug spray in it or it's got whatever in it, and I just didn't care.
Right.
I would do it anyways.
Yeah. At that point, you were pretty much like a full-blown junkie, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
Did you shoot up or
Yeah. So the first time that I used a needle, I caught my high school sweetheart using needles, and I expressed my concern for that, and they were like, I don't really care, I like it. And so I did it out of spite the first time, and after that they almost killed me.
Shit.
That person almost killed me because they were like, oh, you wanted to use a needle, I'm gonna give you your first shot.
Oh wow.
And so when I did it, I lost my vision, I lost my hearing, and I completely just blacked out and came to this person slapping me in the face.
Because Narcan wasn't a thing back then when you were using heavily.
No. And Narcan is for opioids,
right,
like heroin.
Okay.
For an upper, it's not going to have the same effect.
Okay.
Because basically Narcan is to help jumpstart your heart.
Okay.
What my heart was doing was just
it was
about to explode.
Yeah.
So I don't think that even if we had Narcan that it would have made much of a difference. But after that, I spent a year on the needle.
Yeah. So did you shoot up in your arm, like toes, or did you try to hide it?
I did try to hide it for a long time. I shot up in my arms, my hands. I never shot up in my legs or my feet. I tried one time in the neck and I couldn't handle it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was just desperate for that high.
Right.
And I had gotten to a point to where my veins were no longer accessible. So I tried it. Everybody was like, oh, it feels so good. It's to me, it just wasn't worth it.
Right.
Because I have watched people sit for 13, 14 hours trying to get that high. And I don't remember at what point I stopped using the needle, but I think that it was after, I believe that I had gotten cotton fever. I had got really sick.
Explain what cotton fever is to those that might not know.
So for anybody that doesn't know, cotton fever, for a person that intravenously uses, they have to use a piece of cotton as a filter. More commonly, they use cigarette butts. Yeah.
Did you ever use cigarette butts?
I did use cigarette butts.
Hey, I mean, at that time, you were whatever got you high. So,
I have done a lot worse than that, believe it or not.
What was and not to like just throw it out there, but in a sense, this is what this is for, right?
Yeah.
So what was the worst thing you ever did? If you want to talk about it. If you don't, then
no, it's cool.
It's fine. We'll move on from it.
So I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and we were out in BFE, and we had ran out of water, clean water to use. So I shot up with muddy, not pond
like water, yeah,
kind of, but it was just like a mud puddle.
Oh wow!
It was like just a mud puddle.
Sorry.
And bless you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So like you just walked outside and
yep,
found a puddle and
yep,
said fuck it.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's wild. I didn't even know that you really could I didn't even know you used water, if I'm being honest with you,
Yeah.
like, to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You have to melt it.
That shows you how little I actually know.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's a good
I
thing.
mean, I
But
smoked weed. I, did Molly, shrooms.
yeah,
I did
everybody
things,
has
but
their
never,
demons.
never anything like the world that I'm in with
Yeah.
bonding.
Yeah.
So,
And it's scary because I always said, I'm never going to do that.
right.
Because I grew up with that,
Mhm.
I always said, I'm never going to do that.
Right.
I have 2 kids. And
How old are your kids?
they are, my son will be 11 next month, and my
Okay.
daughter will be 10 in October.
And I do remember when you were going through it and I was bonding you out and your friends and everything, you did not have custody at that time.
I did not.
Mhm.
I lost custody of my kids in the divorce
Mhm.
because I was using drugs
Mhm.
and I had gotten high, stolen a vehicle, and I was incarcerated in Monroe County
Mhm.
at the time of my mediation.
Mhm.
But even if I had been able to go to that mediation, my lawyer had already withdrew.
Mhm.
And I was already to the point to where anybody could look at me and tell that I was using drugs.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, it was.
I
It was
got
pretty
bad.
obvious.
It
Yeah.
got bad because I used to be the same size when I first started using. I was the same size that I am now, maybe a little bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 6 months into it is when I really started losing weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year into it, I lost even more weight. And by the end of it, I was down to 110 pounds.
Yeah, you were super small.
I was itty bitty.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of the cops that work for the jail, I went to school with.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're arresting me, they're like, oh, why have you lost so much weight? And I tried to play it off like, oh, it's anorexia.
Right.
But the people I was hanging around with,
the people knew.
Yeah.
The people
like
knew.
Everybody knew. And so that created a lot of like guilt and shame
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to get sober.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to just stop. And I just couldn't. Like there was not a day that went by that I couldn't use.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and lived with my mom for a brief period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And even being around my kids, it was so hard because even though I had, my kids they didn't stay with my mom, but my mom babysat them while my ex-husband worked.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they were there, all I could think about was, man, I don't want to feel this.
Right.
I don't want to feel hurt. I don't want to feel ashamed. I don't want to feel like I'm not worth something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ran into money issues, and I went right back to it.
Yeah. So your ex-husband, he was never into drugs.
No.
Okay.
No.
So and you were on drugs when you guys were together, or no?
No.
Okay.
No. At that point in my life, when I got with him, I was 18 years old.
Oh, he was your high school sweetheart.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No. So he's from Indiana.
Okay.
I met him when I was 18. It was a really crazy situation how we met, but I was with him from the time that I was 18 until 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I left my ex-husband, I reconnected with my high school sweetheart.
Oh, okay. I got you. There we are. Okay, so now that you are sober, and you have been for how long?
4 years.
4 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, because when I first met you, obviously, through bonding and whatnot, you were a way different person.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I remember you'd call my phone and you'd try to act like somebody else because you'd have a warrant because you misscored on me, and you'd be like, yeah, this is so and so. I'm like, okay, I'm not dumb. Like, I know this is
I remember your voice.
And then you were like, yeah, I need to get so and so out of jail. And 9 times out of 10, it was one of the people that you used to date.
Mhm.
And I'd be like, oh, okay, that's cool. Just meet me down at the jail. And you're like, okay, well, so and so is going to come get him. And I'm like,
Do you want to know the funny thing about that? Can I
what?
tell you something?
Yeah, go ahead. You were probably hiding in the car.
I was.
Yeah, probably in the back seat. Like, I'm not dumb.
No, worse. I was in the trunk.
Oh, that's
I was
great.
in the trunk.
Yeah,
actually.
no, I know how it works. Trust me. I just didn't give a shit enough to go out there and look, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Well, good.
What was I going to do? Open your trunk? Nah, it's cool. Trust me, I've seen a lot in my 7 years.
But
so.
that also like tells you like the mind frame that I was in. I was so paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh, if she sees me, I'm gonna go to jail.
Right.
So I was like, screw this. We pulled over. I did my thing, and then I got in the truck, and I was like, I'm not taking any chances. I'm not going to jail today.
Yeah, and then you'd get arrested like 3 days later. So it's just, I knew it was going to happen eventually. So it wasn't a big deal. But okay, so you have been sober for 4 years. Mm-hmm. You have custody of your kids, or in the process?
In the process.
Okay, but you get to see them?
Every weekend, yeah.
Nice.
I get to see them every weekend.
So the relationship with your ex-husband, as far as being able to co-parent together, that's solid, or still he kind of doesn't really trust you, or for good reason, of course?
Yeah. I mean, if I were him, if the roles were reversed, I would have done things differently, mm-hmm. because that's the father of my child. We might not get along, but I do have respect for him.
Yeah.
You know, he went through, well, having to deal with me, he went through a lot during the marriage anyways. Right. And then, you know, I didn't think about it then, but I can't imagine being so afraid of waking up one day and getting a phone call while I'm raising our kids, right. that, hey, your ex-husband, he overdosed, like, right. he's gone. I couldn't imagine that phone call. And so I can't imagine the worry that put on him, mm-hmm. for my kids.
Of course, yeah.
Now things are a little better. We can co-parent a lot better than we had been before at times. Mm-hmm. At times. He is learning to trust me. I go to therapy with my children, okay. Monthly, at least once or twice a month. That helps quite a bit. That has helped tremendously. But
do they remember, or does the oldest remember the old you?
So they have gaps in their memory, mm-hmm. and oddly enough, I never took anything around them. Okay. I never used in front of them. I never did any of those things. Mm-hmm. If I was high, I was away from home.
Okay.
Because I was so ashamed, and mm-hmm. I never wanted my kids to have the life that I had growing up.
Okay.
So anything that I ever did, I did away from them. Mm-hmm. There were a few times that, you know, my mom would call me and say, hey, you know, it was my son's birthday. Your son wants you here, but the only way you're coming to my house is if you're sober.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I made sure that I was at least 3 days sober, mm-hmm. before I went to see them, because I was also paranoid that, you know, when you use, you sweat a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm going to sweat a lot, and it's going to go into my kids' system. Yeah. And I don't want that, because that can kill them. If it can kill me, it'll definitely kill them. So,
yeah, I don't think a lot of people have that consideration.
No.
In regards to that. And that's sad.
It is.
You know, it's one thing to do it to yourself, mm-hmm. but to put your kid in jeopardy, or really to put anybody in jeopardy.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I hate when I do have to go pick somebody up, is when I have to search them. Yeah. And I ask them to